A cold autumn rain pours down on the city. Gina stands in the rain, motionless. Water runs down her face and down the collar of her old coat. She holds her hand in her right pocket. Clutched in her hand are paper money. Two 10-ruble bills, $20 in total. That's all she has. She thinks about tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, the landlady will come. She'll stand at the door and demand money. Gina doesn't have any. The landlady will say it's time. Gina will have to leave. She has no choice. Gina looks down at her feet. Water is running off the sidewalk and into the drain. Her shoes are soaked through. She feels cold and hungry, but she can't spend those $20 on food. This money is her last chance. Maybe she can persuade the owner to wait another day, or buy a ticket to another city. She doesn't know. She looks up and sees a light ahead. It's a street coffee stand. It's standing under a large yellow umbrella. Steam rises from the car. The smell of coffee mingles with the smell of wet asphalt. Gina takes a few steps forward. She moves closer to the light. She just wants a little warmth. She stops nearby. People take cups of coffee, pay, and leave. They laugh. They are not wet. They look calm. And then she notices a man. He's standing to the left of the stand. He's wearing an expensive suit, but now he's completely wet. Water is running from his black hair onto his face. He's saying something to the coffee vendor. The salesman, a young man, shakes his head. He points to the card terminal. The terminal isn't working. The red cross is blinking. The man takes another card out of his pocket. He swipes it. The terminal flashes red again. The clerk throws up his hands. "The system isn't working," the salesperson says. "Cash only, sorry." The man is silent. He puts the card back in his pocket. He doesn't shout. He doesn't complain. He just stands in the rain. He looks off to the side. His face is expressionless, but Gina sees his eyes. There's no anger in them. There's weariness in them. And something else, helplessness. He doesn't know what to do. People pass by. No one looks at him. To everyone, he's just a guy without cash. No one offers to help. Gina looks at her hands. She's clutching $20 in her pocket. She thinks about her apartment, about the hunger, about the cold. This money is her everything. But her legs move on their own. She approaches the counter. She takes wet bills out of her pocket. She places them on the counter. The money sticks to the wet surface. "For him," Gina says. Her voice is quiet. She points at the man. "Large coffee, black, and for me, the smallest." The salesman looks at her in surprise. He takes the money. He pours two coffees, a large glass and a small one. Gina picks up a large glass. She turns and hands it to the man. He looks at her. His eyes are wide. He doesn't understand. He slowly takes the glass. His fingers touch hers. "Thank you," he says, his voice low and calm. Gina nods. She can't speak. She picks up her small glass. It's warm. She has no money now. Just this coffee. She's going to leave. She's done what she could. "Wait," the man says. She stops. He places his glass on the counter. He reaches into his pocket again. He pulls out not a card, but a small rectangle of black plastic. There's no writing on it, just a silver barcode. He hands the thing to Gina. "Take it," he says. It's not a request, but it's not an order either. "What is this?" Gina asks. "Just take it," he repeats. He places the black card in her hand. His touch is quick. "This is gratitude." He picks up his coffee again. He nods at her again. Then he turns and leaves. He walks calmly. The rain pours down on him, but he doesn't quicken his pace. Gina stands still. In one hand, she holds a warm cup. In the other, a cold black card. She doesn't know what it is. She looks at the barcode. Nothing makes sense. She shoves the map into her empty pocket. Now all that's left is this strange thing. She drinks her coffee. It's bitter and cheap, but it's warm. She steps out from under a yellow umbrella. The rain doesn't stop. She walks toward her house. Something in her pocket taps against her leg. It's a black rectangle. Tomorrow she'll be evicted, and today she gave her last money to a stranger and received an incomprehensible card. She doesn't know if it's good or bad. She just walks forward along the wet street. Gina sits on the edge of the bed in her nearly empty room. It's morning. Today is payback day. She hears the front door slam downstairs. It could be the landlady. She holds a black card in her hand. She turns it over in her fingers. She looks at the barcode. What is it? A Metro card? A pass to some club? She doesn't know. She can't just sit and wait. She gets up, puts on the same wet coat, and goes outside. It's no longer raining, but the sky is gray. She goes to the ATM on the corner. She has one thought in her head. Let there be at least $100 in there. Even 50. I can give it to the owner and ask for another day. She approaches the ATM, her hands shaking slightly from the cold and nerves. She inserts the black card into the slot. The machine hums, accepting it. A standard menu appears on the screen. No bank name, no welcome message, just white letters on a blue background. She selects Withdraw Cash, then Other Amount. She freezes. How much should she enter? She's afraid. If she enters too much, the machine might confiscate her card, or the alarm might flash. She decides to enter a small amount. She enters the numbers. $200. That's more than she gave him. It's enough to give to the owner and buy some food. She presses Enter. Her heart pounds. The machine thinks for a second. Then there's a sound, the quiet hum of a bill acceptor. Bills emerge from the slot. New, crisp, 200. Gina grabs the money. She looks at the screen. There's no take card message, no balance information, just a blank blue screen. She presses Cancel. The ATM returns a black card to her. She yanks it out. She stands in front of the ATM, clutching 2 crisp bills in one hand and a cold black card in the other. She's just withdrawn money from an unknown card. No PIN, no request. How is this possible? She looks at the card again. It doesn't feel real. She pockets both the money and the card and quickly walks home. An hour later, the intercom rings. The landlady, Mrs. Elliott, sounds harsh. Gina, I'm coming up. Be ready. Gina opens the door. Mrs. Elliott stands in the threshold in her pink robe. She's not smiling. Well, she says. Gina silently hands her 200. That's for last month. I'll bring this month's soon, I promise. The owner looks at the money, then at Gina. She takes the bills and holds them up to the light. Where did you get the money? She asks suspiciously. I found a job, Gina says quickly. The hostess snorts incredulously, but stuffs the money into her robe pocket. Fine, but I need to see the full amount by the end of the week. Or you're out. She turns and leaves. The door closes. Gina leans against it. The first obstacle is passed. She has a week and a strange map. She returns to the ATM during the day. She inserts her card again, selects withdrawal again. This time she enters 500. The machine dispenses more money. 5 more hundreds. No questions asked. With this money, she goes to the store. She buys food. Not just cheap canned goods, but real groceries. Chicken, fresh vegetables, good bread, fruit. She pays with a black card at the checkout. The cashier swipes it. The receipt prints. Everything is fine. Gina returns home with her bags full. She cooks herself a proper dinner. For the first time in months, she eats her fill. She looks at the map lying on the table. She doesn't understand how it works. But the money isn't running out. She checked. The next day, she wakes up with a new thought. What if there is a limit? She has to check. For real. After much hesitation, she goes to the mall. She enters a store where she used to only window shop. She chooses a bag, leather, with a simple design. The price tag is a breathtaking amount. It costs more than she earned in 2 months at her old job. She approaches the checkout counter. Her stomach tightens. Something's about to go wrong. They'll block the card, or call security. She silently hands the cashier the black card. The saleswoman, a well-groomed woman, takes the card without emotion. She swipes it. She waits. A cold sweat breaks out on Gina's back. The terminal beeps approvingly. The receipt slides out of the machine. The salesperson smiles. Thank you for your purchase. Have a nice day, she says, handing Gina a beautiful bag and its branded packaging. Gina leaves the store, holding a bag. The card worked again. That means the limit is very high. Or there is no limit at all. The thought is both terrifying and exciting. Now she has money. Lots of money. She decides to change not only her life, but herself as well. She goes to a beauty salon. She's never been to such a place. She's met by a stylist. I want to change everything, Gina says. The stylist, a woman named Yvette, looks at her old clothes, her plain hair. She smiles. I understand. Leave it to me. Gina spends several hours at the salon. They cut and straighten her long red hair. They do her makeup. Not too much, but flawless. Then Yvette takes her to a nearby boutique. She helps her choose a dress. A simple black dress that fits Gina perfectly. One evening, Gina stands in front of the mirror in her modest apartment. She looks at her reflection. She doesn't recognize herself. Her hair is shiny, falling in straight strands. Makeup highlights her eyes and cheekbones. Her dress clings to her as if it were tailored. She looks like a different woman. Confident, beautiful, precious. She touches her reflection in the mirror. It's still her, But now she looks the way she always wanted. She uses the card to pay the rent for 6 months in advance. Mrs. Elliot, the landlady, can't believe her eyes. She smiles ingratiatingly, takes the money, and wishes Gina a good day. Then Gina finds a new apartment. It's small, but in a good neighborhood, bright and clean. She pays the first and last month's rent with a black card. No questions asked. She buys new furniture, not the most expensive, but high quality, beautiful dishes, soft cotton bed linens. She furnishes her home. She now has everything: security, comfort, beautiful clothes, food. She can buy anything, but peace doesn't come. Everything happens too easily. Every night she wakes up and checks to see if the map is still on the nightstand. She's afraid it's a dream, that she'll wake up in her old room to the sound of rain. She feels like she's being watched, that at any moment all this will disappear, and she'll find herself in even more debt than before. One day, she goes into a very expensive boutique. She wants to buy a warm wool coat. The salespeople in the store are all hand-picked, impeccably dressed. They look at her. At first, their glances are polite but cold. Then one of them, a young man, notices the bag she bought last time. His expression changes. He becomes unnaturally helpful. Gina chooses a coat and approaches the checkout. She hears a quiet whisper. She turns around. Two saleswomen are standing in the corner, looking at her. They don't know what she's hearing. Her again. Did you see how much she posted last week? Where did she get the money? Last time she was wearing discount jeans. Maybe a husband's card or a sugar daddy? They laugh quietly. Gina feels her face flush. She quickly pays with her card, grabs the bag, and walks out. Outside, she breathes deeply. She feels like a fraud. She doesn't belong here. She has money, but no belonging. Everyone can see she's not from their world. Whispers follow her. A few days later, she's waiting for the dentist. It's an expensive clinic, which she also paid for with a card. Magazines are scattered on the table in the hallway. Out of boredom, she picks up a business magazine. She flips through the pages of articles about economics, which hold no interest for her. And suddenly, she stops. There's a photograph on the page. It's him, John Ho. He's sitting in a chair against a window overlooking the city. He's wearing a dark suit. His face is calm, his gaze directed straight at the camera. He looks confident, even commanding. Not at all like the man drenched in the rain. Gina quickly reads the caption underneath the photo. Kim Jong-ho, the quiet power of Korean business. She reads the article. It's short on specifics. It talks about his diversified assets, his influence over logistics, and how he prefers to remain in the shadows. The phrases are vague, but they create an image. A man with enormous power. A man who isn't talked about openly, but whom everyone respects, or fears. She looks at his face in the photograph. The same black hair, the same direct gaze, but there's no hint of the weariness and helplessness she saw then. There's only strength, quiet, as the caption says, but all-pervasive. She places the magazine on the table. Her hands are cold. Now she understands. The man who gave her the map wasn't just a strange stranger. He was someone very important and very dangerous. The word power in the caption now seems more than just a nice word. It feels like a warning. She thinks about the black card in her purse, the card that never runs out of money. It's not just a gift from a grateful man. It's a gift from a man so powerful that he can afford such gifts. And now the question isn't how the card works. The question is why he actually gave it to her, and what he wants in return. Gina sits in front of her laptop on the new sofa in her new apartment. A cup of cold coffee sits on the table. She types a name into a search engine. Kim Jong-ho. The first links are the same old business magazine. Then the news. But the news is strange. They don't talk about him directly. They talk about companies, about deals, about sudden changes in the market. One article tells the story of a shipping company in Busan. The company was deeply in debt and then suddenly received a huge investment from an anonymous fund. All debts disappeared. Afterward, the company abruptly changed management. The new director is a man from nowhere. The article writes, rumor has it that a figure known by the initials KJH is behind the deal. Another article, a fire broke out at a large electronics warehouse in Incheon. The warehouse owner was a man who had a public dispute with an influential businessman from Seoul. The fire was ruled accidental, but the businessman subsequently sold all his assets and left the country. Someone commented, Kim cleaned up the place. The third article, it's in Korean. but the browser offers translation. It's about parliamentary hearings on corruption. It mentions a lobbying group that informally influences decisions. It's called the Silence Group. Kim Jong-ho's name doesn't appear anywhere, but the research note says, experts note that not a single major logistics project in the region proceeds without approval from a specific office in central Seoul. It also provides an address. Gina Googles it. It's the Cheongdam Tower skyscraper. She reads on. A forum for expats in Korea. The topic, who should you not mess with in business? The replies are full of names. Hers is among them. Kim Jong-ho. Someone writes, don't mess with him, even if the offer seems golden. His methods are harsh. He doesn't forgive disrespect. Another replies, he's not a thug in the classic sense. He's a force, a quiet one. If he looks at you, you've already lost. Gina closes her laptop. She feels cold. She realizes there are no direct accusations anywhere, no crime reports, no photos with investigators. There are only hints, whispers, rumors. But these rumors add up to a clear picture. This man isn't just rich. He wields power that's frightening, the power to change the lives of companies, to make people disappear. People fear him even from a distance, in another country. She goes to bed late. The black card lies on the nightstand. She looks at it. Now this piece of plastic feels as heavy as a stone. She falls asleep and dreams. She stands in an empty white room. She holds a black card in her hand. Suddenly the card begins to change. It becomes soft. Paper. Gina looks. In her hand lies a plain $20 bill, crumpled, wet, the very same one she gave for the coffee. She hears footsteps, muffled, heavy. She turns around. A shadow detaches itself from the wall. The shadow has no face, only the shape of a tall man. The shadow approaches her, slowly but inexorably. Gina tries to run. Her feet feel like they're stuck in the floor. She looks at the bill in her hand. She screams, I'm giving it back! Take it back! And throws the bill toward the shadows. The paper falls to the floor and turns to ash. The shadow doesn't stop. It grows closer, larger, filling the entire space. The cold emanating from it is physical, icy. Gina wakes up with a sharp intake of breath. She's sitting up in bed, her heart pounding. She turned on the light. There's a black map on the nightstand. It's intact, but the feeling of dread doesn't go away. The dream was too real. This isn't just a dream. This is her intuition screaming, this is wrong. You've gotten yourself into something very big and dark. She can't live like this anymore. She can't wake up every morning and check if the map is still there. She can't jump at every knock on the door. She can't catch strange looks and think, do they know? Do they work for him? She gets up. She goes to the dresser where she keeps her old clothes. She finds an old coat, the same one, wet from the rain. She puts her hand in the inside pocket. It's empty. She checks the other pockets. In one of them, her fingers feel a hard rectangle. She pulls it out. It's a business card. A simple one, made of thick white cardboard. There's no company logo on it. Just a name, printed in black, Kim Jong-ho. And below that, a mobile number. The same number she ignored when she received the card. She sits down on the floor, holding the business card in her hands. The decision comes to her naturally, clear and precise. She will return everything to him. Everything she bought with this money. The apartment, the furniture, the clothes, the bags, everything that can be sold. She will return the remaining money to the card, and she will hand the card back to him. And she will say, thank you, but I don't need it. She understands that it will be difficult, that she will have to live in poverty again. But it will be fair, it will be safe. She will sleep soundly. In the morning, she prepares for the call. She rehearses her speech several times. Hello, Mr. Kim. This is Gina, the girl from the rain and coffee. I'd like to return your card. Can we meet? She dials the number. The call takes a long time. She thinks no one will answer. But then the connection is established. Hello? A female voice. Calm, even, without emotion. Gina is at a loss. She expected to hear him. Hello? I would like to speak with Mr. Kim Jong-ho. Who am I talking to? Asks a female voice. My name is Gina. He gave me his business card. There was a short pause on the other end of the line. 1 minute, please. Gina hears the woman say something, covering the receiver with her hand. Then she returns to the phone. Miss Gina, Mr. Kim is out of town, but he'll be in town tomorrow afternoon. You can meet him at his office at 3 o'clock. I'll send you the address via text. Is that a good time for you? The woman speaks as if this meeting had been planned a week ago, as if she'd been waiting for this call. There's no surprise or curiosity in her voice, only professional politeness. Yeah, that's convenient, Gina mutters. Excellent. See you tomorrow, Miss Gina. The connection is cut off. A minute later, a text message arrives on my phone. The address, that same Cheongdam Tower skyscraper, and the office number, 4201. The next day, Gina spends a long time choosing what to wear. She doesn't want to look like she's using his gifts, but all her new clothes were bought with his money. In the end, she chooses a simple beige dress and a light coat. Minimal makeup. She puts the black card in her small purse. She arrives at the skyscraper at exactly 3 o'clock. The building is enormous, made of glass and steel. She passes through revolving doors. Inside is a huge hall with a shiny floor. Several uniformed security guards sit behind the counter. She approaches, gives her name and office number. The guard checks the list on his tablet. He nods. The elevators are on the right, floor 42nd. Someone will meet you. The elevator is fast and silent. On the 42nd floor, the doors open. Ahead of her is another hallway, small and private. There are no windows here. The walls are paneled in dark wood. The floor is covered with a thick gray carpet that muffles all sound. The air smells of expensive wood and cleanliness. A woman sits behind a glass table. She's dressed in a perfectly tailored gray suit. It must be the woman on the phone. She smiles a polite smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Miss Gina, welcome. Please come in. She stands and opens the heavy, dark wood door. Gina enters the office. Her first impression is one of spaciousness and emptiness. The office is enormous. One wall is entirely glass, offering a panoramic view of the city. But there is very little furniture. A large ebony desk sits in front of it. On the wall hangs a single, large, abstract painting in dark tones. No books, no knickknacks, no photographs. Everything here speaks of money and power, but without a hint of individuality. It's like the perfect hotel room or the cabin of a private jet. Expensive, cold, and impersonal. John Ho is sitting at his desk, staring at his laptop screen. He's wearing a dark suit, but today it looks less formal. His jacket is hanging over the back of his chair. His shirt is undone. His assistant says quietly, "Mr. Kim, Miss Gina." He looks up from the screen. His gaze falls on Gina. And then something happens that she didn't expect. He literally freezes. His face, usually so inscrutable, expresses utter astonishment. His eyes widen. He slowly pushes his chair back and stands up. He doesn't take his eyes off her. He looks at her as if he sees a ghost or a miracle. For a few seconds, there's complete silence in the office. Even his impassive assistant looks at him with mild surprise. He walks around the table. His movements are a little slow, as if he can't believe his eyes. He stops 2 steps away from her. His gaze glides over her face, her hair, her dress. Something complex flashes in his eyes. Disbelief, admiration, and then that amazement again. He says her name. His voice is quiet, almost breaking, and there's no hint of the strength she's read about. Gina? It's just one word, but there's so much in it. A question, a confirmation, and something else she can't quite put her finger on. Gina stands before him, feeling her entire prepared speech disappear. His astonished gaze confuses her. He doesn't look like the powerful and menacing man from the articles, but like someone who's seen something incredible. She forces herself to step forward. She opens her small purse and takes out a black card. She reaches out and places it on the smooth surface of his desk. The plastic clicks softly against the wood. The sound seems to bring him back to reality. His face becomes more composed again, but a slight look of surprise still lingers in the corners of his eyes. "I can't accept this," Gina says. Her voice is quieter than she intended. She makes an effort and speaks more clearly. "The money never runs out. Why?" John Ho glances at the map on the table, then looks up at her again. He doesn't answer right away. He slowly returns to his desk and sits down. He gestures for her to sit in one of the chairs across from him. Gina sits on the edge of the chair, keeping her back straight. "Because she has no limits," he says finally. His voice is even and calm again, but it lacks the icy detachment she expected. He's simply stating a fact. Gina looks at him, confused. "What do you mean? Every card has a limit." "This one doesn't," he repeats. "I wanted you to have no problems, ever, so you could buy whatever you wanted, live wherever you wanted, not worry about anything." His words hang in the quiet office. They sound less like boasting than like a simple statement of purpose. As if he'd said, I wanted you to have an apartment with sunny windows. But, for what? Gina blurts out. She feels a long-standing confusion welling up inside her. For $20? For a cup of coffee? That's ridiculous. John-ho leans back in his chair. He looks not at the map, but at her. His gaze becomes very attentive, scrutinizing. Not for money, he says quietly. And not for coffee. He pauses, choosing his words. That day, it was bad for me. Really bad. I had big problems. Technical, personal. I was in a strange city. My cards were temporarily blocked due to security measures. I was waiting for the call that was supposed to solve everything. And I stood in that rain. I felt, he searches for the right word, invisible and helpless. Like a child. People looked at my suit and didn't understand why I was just standing there. They thought, I don't know what. They looked away. That's all. He looks straight at her. And you came up to me. You didn't see a suit. You saw a man who was getting wet and being refused a simple thing. You gave me your last money. Without knowing me. Without expecting anything in return. Simply because it was the right thing to do. He points his chin at the card. This isn't payment for coffee, Gina. This is an attempt to repay the dignity you gave me back then. It's priceless. And I gave you this card that same day, knowing its value was only a small reflection of what you'd done. Gina is silent. His words fall on her with a weight she didn't expect. She was thinking about money, about power, about ulterior motives, and he talks about dignity, about how she gave it back to him when he felt humiliated. I can't carry this with me, she says finally, her voice shaking. I read about you. On the internet. I know who you are. Or at least I have a hunch. This map, it's like a piece of your world. And your world, it scares me. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't say, you've got it all wrong. He just nods, as if he expected it. I returned your gift, Gina continues, steeling herself. She points to the card. And I'll sell everything I bought. I'll give you your money back. Maybe not right away, but I will. Now we're even. He looks at her long and hard. Then a tiny smile appears at the corner of his mouth. It's not mocking. It seems sincere and a little sad. No, he says softly. Now I owe you even more. Gina blinks. What? Why? Because you came here to give back. Most people in your place would have simply taken the money and disappeared, or come asking for more. You came to refuse, to preserve your dignity. You did the right thing again, and I owe you again. He pauses, his smile widening a little. So let me correct myself. Let me suggest not a thing, but an action. Invite you to dinner, just like I would invite any other woman I'm interested in. Gina felt her breath catch in her throat. She'd expected anything. Anger, indifference, cold politeness. But not this. Not such a direct and simple offer. For dinner? She repeats stupidly. Yes, he nods. To a restaurant, where they eat and talk. No need for an unlimited card. There's a menu with prices. I'll pay cash, if that makes you feel better. He looks at her again, his gaze sliding over her dress, her hair, her face. A warm, living glint appears in his eyes that she hasn't seen before. You've become radiant, he says, and there's genuine admiration in his voice. Completely different. And this other, he pauses, as if testing whether he can continue. I like this other woman even more than the one standing in the rain, although I will always be grateful to that one. Gina feels heat spread across her cheeks. She wasn't expecting a compliment. She came here prepared for battle, for defense, and he disarms her with his simplicity and directness. I'm scared, she blurts out. She hadn't planned to say it, but the words just came out. I know, he replies. His voice becomes serious. My world, it's not for the weak. It's full of people who see only benefit and strength. I can't change this world, but I can give you my word. With you, I'll just be John-ho. A man who wants to invite to dinner the beautiful, intelligent woman who was once kind to him. He doesn't swear. He simply speaks. And there's a strange persuasiveness to this simplicity. She looks into his eyes. She searches for lies, games, hidden calculations. But all she sees is hope, a sincere, almost boyish hope that she will agree. A struggle rages within her. The voice of fear screams, He's dangerous! You've read it! His world will break you! It's a trap! But another voice, quiet and insistent, says, He looks at you like no one has ever looked at you before. He sees you, not your looks, bought with his money, but you yourself, that act in the rain. She thinks about her life before this map, about the endless struggle, the fear, the loneliness, then about her life with the map, about luxury, but also about fear, suspicion, a sense of deception. And now a third path lies before her. Unfamiliar, frightening, just dinner. But what's beyond? I don't know, she says finally. She can neither agree nor refuse outright. Your world, there won't be my world at dinner, he interrupts softly. It'll just be us, and food, and conversation, about everything but business. You can ask any questions, and you can get up and leave at any time. I won't stop you. He's giving her an easy way out. It's not an ultimatum, it's an open invitation. Gina looks at the black card lying between them on the table. It no longer looks like a source of power, but like something unnecessary, a symbol of a false beginning. She slowly looks up at him. She sees him frozen in anticipation. There's no tension or demand in his posture. He's simply awaiting her decision. Fear still lingers within her, but something new is born alongside him. Interest, not in his money or power, interest in himself, in a man who speaks of dignity, who remembers simple kindness, and who looks at her as if she were the most amazing thing he's seen in a long time. She takes a deep breath. Gina looks him straight in the eye. Fear still throbs somewhere inside, but her voice is firm. She feels she must set boundaries. It's now or never. Okay, she says. I agree, but only if it's just dinner. Like normal people. He nods silently, allowing her to continue. No security, she lists. No limousines with tinted windows. No, nothing. She gestures vaguely, indicating his entire office, the world beyond the glass wall. John Ho listens attentively. He doesn't interrupt. When she finishes, he exhales slowly. I understand, he says. Then he pauses briefly. His gaze becomes slightly distant, as if assessing the complexity of the task. For me, this will be more difficult than signing any business agreement. Gina looks at him in surprise. She expected easy agreement, bravado, but he admits weakness. Honestly. Why? She can't help but ask. Because I can't remember the last time I did something just because. My life for years has been a chain of precautions. The car, the route, the people around me, everything is planned out. To give it up, he looks at her again, and there's a challenge in his eyes. But it's aimed at himself. It's an interesting challenge. I agree. No security, no limo, just us and the restaurant. You choose the location if you want. His willingness to accept her rules, even while acknowledging their complexity, is disarming. She shakes her head. No, you choose. Just let it be. A normal place, not the most pretentious in town. The corners of his lips twitched again in the semblance of a smile. I'll try to remember what normal is. It's a deal. I'll call you tomorrow and set a time and place. That's where their meeting ends. Gina leaves, leaving the black card lying on his desk. She feels a strange lightness, mixed with anxiety. She's just voluntarily agreed to a date with a man she fears, but she's also taken control of the situation. These are her rules. Gina spends the rest of the day and the next in nervous anticipation. She feels like a schoolgirl before her first date. She goes through her wardrobe several times. All those beautiful things, bought with his money, now seem wrong to her. It's as if they're screaming, "Look, you bought me!" In the end, she chooses a simple navy blue dress. It's not the most expensive. It's comfortable. In it, she feels like herself, not a decorated version of herself. She applies light makeup and lets her straight red hair down. She looks in the mirror and thinks, this is who I am. Without $1,000,000 in the bag, he calls during the day. His voice is calm. He gives the time, 8 o'clock, and the address. It's not the center, but a cozy neighborhood with small restaurants. She Googles the name. Italian restaurant. Good reviews, average prices, nothing fancy. He really tried. At precisely 8 o'clock, she approaches the restaurant. It's already dark outside. She looks around, searching for him. No black limousines, no stern men with headphones. And then she sees him. He's standing a little to the side, under a street lamp. He's wearing a dark gray suit, but it's cut simply, without any designer frills. Under the jacket is a dark turtleneck, no tie. He's looking at his phone, and in the light of the street lamp, his face seems focused, even a little tense. Parked next to the sidewalk isn't a limousine, but an ordinary black sedan, not the latest model. The driver is invisible inside. He looks up, notices her. His face changes. The tension melts away, his eyes brighten. He breaks away from the wall and takes a few steps toward her. Gina, "You're here," he says. There's a hint of relief in his voice, as if he wasn't entirely sure she'd show up. "I said I'd come," she replies simply. He nods and gestures towards the restaurant entrance. "After you." It's warm and cozy inside. It smells of garlic, tomatoes, and fresh bread. The waiter shows them to a table in the corner. Not the best one, just a spare one. No one rushes toward them with any special respect. Everything is as she wanted. They sit down. There's an awkward pause. Gina glances at the menu to avoid his gaze. "I don't know what's good here," he says, flipping through the pages. "I'll leave it to you to decide. Or we can ask the waiter." His words sound so natural, so human, that Gina can't help but smile. "Let's ask. This is my first time here, too." They order food. At first, the conversation is halting. They talk about the restaurant, the weather. But then, when the wine and appetizers arrive, something changes. He asks her what she likes to read. Gina, a little surprised, mentions several books. It turns out he's read one of them. They begin discussing the plot. He has a keen mind. He notices details she missed. Then she asks about movies. He names an old Korean film, a melodrama. He describes it so simply and with such feeling that she immediately wants to see it. He asks if she's ever been to Asia. She says no. He talks about South Korea not as a businessman or politician, but as a man who loves his country. He talks about the mountains, the sea, the taste of street food in Seoul. Not a word about business, money, or power. He talks about the smell of the air after the rain in his hometown. Gina listens, forgetting her fear. Before her sits not a quiet force, but an intriguing man with sad eyes and a warm voice. He knows how to listen. When she talks about her dream of learning to draw someday, he doesn't brush her off, but asks clarifying questions. He genuinely wants to understand. They talk about travel, music, and funny stories. He tells her how, as a student, he tried to make noodles and caused a small flood in the dorm. She laughs. He smiles, and it changes his entire face, making him look younger and more vulnerable. Dinner passes too quickly. When the bill arrives, he pays in cash, as promised, from a simple leather wallet. No black cards. Everything is simple and human. They go outside. The night is warm. The moon is visible in the sky. "Shall I walk you home?" he offers. "By car." It's just for safety, not security. Gina looks at the dark sidewalk, at the moonlight on the asphalt. She doesn't want this evening to end so quickly. Conflicts still rage inside her. But right now, at this moment, she feels good with him. Let's go for a little walk, if you don't mind," she says. He looks at her with quiet surprise, then nods. "Of course." He says something to the driver of that black sedan, and the car slowly starts to move, following them at a respectful distance, like a shadow. They walk side by side. At first they are silent, simply listening to the sounds of the night city. Then he speaks. "Thank you for this evening, Gina. I don't remember the last time I had such a simple conversation." She looks at him sideways. "Were you just walking around? Without a purpose?" He pauses, looking off into the distance, then slowly shakes his head. "No, not for many years. Every walk I take is a journey from point A to point B, from the car to the office, from the office to a meeting. Even if I'm walking, I always have a to-do list in my head, a problem I need to solve. But just walking and looking around," he turns his gaze to her. "This is my first walk like this in many, many years. Thank you for offering." His confession touches her. There's no self-pity in it. It's simply a statement of fact, something that for her has always been the norm, but for him, an unattainable luxury. She understands that the weakness he spoke of in his office was completely sincere. The world he built has become a gilded cage for him. They reach a small park. The moon illuminates the empty benches and dormant trees. "I'm right here, around the corner," Gina says, stopping. He stops too. They stand facing each other under the moon. His car stops quietly 10 meters away. "So, goodbye, John Ho," Gina says. She suddenly feels awkward, like at the very end of a good movie. "Goodbye, Gina," he replies. He doesn't try to hug or kiss her. He just stands there and looks at her. Then he adds, Can I call you again? If you get bored just hanging out again." The same hopefulness that had filled his voice in the office resonates in his voice. But now it's less uncertain, more simply yearning. Gina looks at him, at this powerful man who's afraid to be ordinary, and who took a big step for her today. The fear hasn't gone away yet, but it's retreated somewhere deep, giving way to warmth, affection, and a strange sense of closeness. She smiles. a small, genuine smile. Yes, she says. You can call. They stand under the moon, his words about calling still hanging in the air. Gina nods in response to his question. Yes, you can call. She's just about to say goodbye and turn toward the house when movement in the shadows of a nearby alley makes her start. Two men emerge from a dark alleyway, just 20 meters away. They walk slowly, but their movements are purposeful. They look directly at John Ho and Gina. One is tall and thin, wearing a dark hooded jacket. The other is stocky, wearing a cap. Their hands are hidden in their pockets. Gina instinctively freezes. The faint feeling of warmth and sympathy that filled her a second ago instantly evaporates. Her body tenses. She can't see any weapons, but the very posture of these people, their focused, cold attention, conveys a direct threat. They don't look like random passers-by. She turns her head towards John Ho. She expects to see concern, or at least surprise on his face, but his face doesn't change at all. It becomes empty. All the emotion, all the warmth that was in his eyes during dinner is gone. His gaze becomes flat, like the surface of a lake on a windless day. He makes no sudden movements. He doesn't turn his whole body towards them. He simply takes one step, one precise step forward, and slightly to the side. Now he's completely between Gina and the two strangers. His back, straight and broad, blocks her view. She sees only his back and his dark jacket, and, out of the corner of her eye, the two men who have stopped 10 paces away. Silence. Absolute. No one says a word. John Ho doesn't make a sound. He doesn't ask, "Do you need something?" He doesn't threaten. He just stands there. He looks at them. His head is tilted slightly forward, his chin down. He doesn't adopt a fighting stance. He just looks. Gina, hidden behind him, can't see his face, but she sees how the other two react. The tall one in the hood freezes first. He stops moving forward. His shoulders sag slightly. The stocky one in the cap glances quickly at his partner, then back at Jong Ho's motionless figure. He takes a half step back. 5 seconds pass. 10, it feels like an eternity. Then the tall man slowly, very slowly, looks away. He turns his head slightly to the side, as if examining something in the dark alley. The stocky man copies his movement. They no longer look directly at John Ho. Without a word, without coordinating their actions, they simultaneously turn and leave. Not quickly, not running. They simply disappear into the same alley from which they emerged. Their footsteps fade away. John Ho doesn't turn around immediately. He stares into the darkness where they disappeared for a few more seconds. Then his shoulders relax, almost imperceptibly. He slowly turns to face Gina. Her face is white as chalk. She stares at him with huge eyes. Her breathing is rapid and shallow. She cannot utter a word. "It's okay," he says quietly. His voice is even again, but it lacks its former softness. He sounds tired. "They're gone." Who was that?" she breathes. He shrugs. "It doesn't matter. Maybe they were trying to take the wallet. They saw a couple and decided they were easy pickings." He's lying. She knows it immediately. It wasn't a coincidence. These people were looking at him. They recognized him, and they were afraid. Waiting in the distance, silently pulls up to the curb. The driver, a man with a short haircut and simple dark clothes, gets out. He doesn't look like a typical chauffeur. He stands by the open rear door, his eyes quickly scanning the street. He, too, has seen everything. "I think we should drive today," says John Ho. It's not a suggestion. It's a very gentle, yet undeniable statement of fact. "Please." Gina nods silently. She can't argue. Her legs are weak. She climbs into the back seat. He sits next to her. The door closes. The car starts to move smoothly. The car is quiet. Gina sits pressed against the door, looking out the window at the passing lights. The old feeling of closeness and warmth is shattered. A cold, rational fear grips her again. The same one she felt while reading articles online, but this time it's not an abstract fear. It's here, in the car. It's sitting next to the man who was just attacked, and who, by the sheer force of his presence, forced the attackers to retreat. She turns to face him. He's sitting with his head leaned back against the headrest, his eyes closed. He doesn't look scared, but incredibly tired. "Are you always in this much danger?" she asks quietly. She doesn't even notice she's switched to the informal "you." The question just blurts out. He opens his eyes. He turns his head towards her. In the light of the passing streetlights, his face looks haggard. "Sometimes," he answers honestly. Not always so openly. More often it's pressure, threats through third parties, attempts to set you up in business, a direct attack on the street. That's rare. Stupid and rare. He speaks of it as if he were discussing the weather. Why? Because of who you are? Because of what I have, and because I don't give it away, he says simply. The car pulls up to her house. The driver stops but doesn't get out. John-ho looks at her. His fatigue recedes. His gaze becomes attentive again, focused on her. But now, he says more quietly, I have reason to be more careful. He doesn't look at his phone, doesn't think about those two people. He looks only at her, and there's no pathos in these words. There's a simple, terrible truth. Her presence in his life is more than just a pleasant date. It's a new vulnerability, and he realizes it. You say it like it's my fault, Gina whispers. He shakes his head quickly. No, never. This is my reality. I'm simply stating a fact. I used to be cautious because I had to be, to survive. Caution has a face now, and a name. That changes everything. Gina looks at him. The fear inside her begins to change shape. It's still there. It will always be there, somewhere, as long as she's with this man. But now it's mixed with another feeling, with understanding, with what he just did. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He simply stood in front of her, like a shield. And that was enough. They could have had guns, she says, almost unaware that she is speaking out loud. Yes, he agrees, but they didn't use it, because they knew how it would end for them. In this world, everything is a deal. They assessed the risks and deemed them too high, for now at least. And if they hadn't counted, he looks at her with a long, direct gaze. Then my driver, whose name is Min, and the two other people in the car behind us, which has been following us for 3 blocks now, wouldn't be so passive. He says this without boasting, without threatening. It's just another fact of his life. He has security, who follow at a respectful distance, even when he asks for a regular dinner. He lied to her when he said he'd be completely alone, but he lied not out of malice, but because otherwise her condition would have been impossible to fulfill. It was a compromise between her desire for normality and his need to survive. Gina leans back in her seat. She has nothing to be angry about. He probably just saved her from something very bad, and he was willing to do more to protect her. She thinks about his tired face, about how he said this walk with her was the first he'd taken in years. This man lives under siege. Beautiful, expensive, but under siege nonetheless. I'm scared, she says again. This is the second truth she's told me today. I know, he nods, and I can't ask you not to be afraid. I can only promise one thing. As long as you're with me, I'll be between you and this whole world. Always. He doesn't say, I'll protect you, which would sound like bravado. He says, I'll be between, like a living barrier. It sounds more truthful and scarier at the same time. She opens the door. The cool night air rushes into the car. Good night, John-ho, she says as she leaves. Good night, Gina, he replies. She closes the door and quickly walks to the entrance. She feels the car standing still until she steps inside and closes the door behind her. Only then does she hear the quiet sound of the car driving away. In her apartment, she leans against the closed door. Her heart is still beating fast. 2 figures in the darkness stand before her eyes, and is back, shielding her from them. She's afraid. Yes. But there's a new note to this fear now. Not panic, but a conscious choice. She saw his world, caught a glimpse of it, and saw him himself, tired, honest, ready to be her shield. She doesn't know what will happen next, but she knows that if he calls tomorrow, she will answer, because the fear of loneliness and hopelessness she knew before him now seems worse than this new, acute fear, mixed with warmth and a strange sense of security. He gets out of the car after her, but doesn't come close. He stops 2 steps away, giving her space. The night air is chilly, and Gina wraps herself in a light coat. Shall I come in with you? Check if everything is all right in the entrance hall? He asks. His voice is neutral, but his eyes are worried. Gina shakes her head. No, it's quiet here, and the concierge is there. She nods toward the illuminated service window by the entrance. He looks there, then back at her. His tension gradually subsides. He no longer looks like the icy, immobile shield he was a few minutes ago. He's simply a man again, walking her home after a date. A very unusual date. Thank you, Gina, he says quietly. Thank you for this evening, for dinner, for the walk. He pauses, and his words take on a special weight, for reminding me who I really am, beyond all This. He doesn't point to the car, to the invisible guard, to the shadow of that alley. But she understands. He thanks her for a few hours of normal life, for the fact that she, without even realizing it, gave him a respite from himself. I was fine too, she answers honestly. Until that moment. He nods, accepting her reproach. I know. And I'm sorry it happened. It's a part of me that I can't get rid of, no matter how hard I try. They stand in silence. Gina feels the cold seeping through the thin soles of her shoes, but she doesn't want to leave. Something important hangs in the air, and it needs to be clarified now. She looks at his face, illuminated by the yellow light of the street lamp. She sees the weariness in the corners of his eyes. She sees the firm line of his mouth, but she also sees what happened at dinner. A lively mind, a quiet self-irony, the very hope with which he looked at her, and she understands, clearly and distinctly. She's afraid. Yes, she's afraid of dark alleys, strangers from the gateway, his complex and dangerous world. But this fear is external. It's understandable, like being afraid of a thunderstorm or high waves. But there's a deeper fear, a fear of losing what had just begun. That spark of understanding that had passed between them over a conversation about books and travel. That strange new connection. The chance to see this strong, reserved man become, for a moment, simply John Ho, tired, a little lonely, yearning for the simple things. If she retreats now, out of fear of his world, she'll lose it. She'll lose him. And then she'll return to the life she had before the map, safe, predictable, gray, and lonely. Or to a life with money, but with a constant feeling of deception and fear that it will be taken away. Both options now seem dead to her. She takes a deep breath. The cold air burns her lungs, clearing her thoughts. I won't back down, she says out loud. The words are quiet but very clear. He looks at her, not understanding at first. I mean, what happened? It's scary, but I'm not going to run away because of it, she explains. His face changes. Mistrust appears, mixed with a cautious, fragile hope. Gina, you've only seen a small part of it. This isn't a game. It could happen again, and maybe it won't end so peacefully. I know, she says, but you said you'd be in between. I believe you. She says it simply, without pathos. She doesn't say, I believe you're all-powerful. She says, I believe you'll do everything in your power to make this wall stand. And there's power in that faith. He is silent, looking at her. It seems he is searching her eyes for doubt, for weakness. He does not find it. Are you sure? He finally asks. It's perhaps the most important question he's asked her all evening. No, Gina admits honestly. I'm not sure of anything. I'm afraid, but I'm sure of something else. I'm interested in you, and I feel good, and I want to understand what this is between us. And I don't want to give up on this just because it's difficult. My life before you was difficult too, just in a different way. Her words, so simple and direct, seem to disarm him more than any threat. He looks away, staring into the darkness behind her, gathering his thoughts. Then he looks at her again. Then, we need new rules, he says. Which ones? She asks. First, no illusions. I will not hide the truth about my world from you. If something happens, I will tell you honestly, like today, without embellishment. She nods. Okay. Second, your safety is my priority. That means sometimes I'll have to insist on certain measures, like the machine did today. Not always, but sometimes. You have to accept that. Gina considers this. She hates the thought, but she remembers the chilling gaze of those two. She remembers how her legs turned weak with fear. She nods. Accepted. But I want to be involved in these decisions, not just be a passenger. The corners of his lips twitched. Agreed. Third, you always have an exit door. Always. You can say stop at any time, for any reason, and I will back off. I promise. This is the most important rule. He gives her control, complete and total. He doesn't lure her into a trap with no escape. He offers a path she can take, knowing she can turn back at any moment. What about this? She makes a vague gesture that could mean money, his status, or anything else. I don't want your money, John Ho, she says firmly. You have the card. I'm not taking it back. I want a fresh start, without your millions between us. He looks at her with an indescribable feeling. Admiration? Bewilderment? Gina, I can't be poor. It's part of who I am. I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying, this won't happen between us. She points a finger into the space between them, as if poking at an invisible wall of money. You pay for dinner if you invite me. I can pay for coffee if I invite you. Like normal people, and everything else is your business. But it shouldn't concern us. He's silent for a long moment, processing her words. She's asking for the impossible, to separate his essence from his power and money. But she's asking not to change him, but to draw a line, so that their relationship would be built not on gratitude or duty, but on something else. It will be difficult, he says finally, but I'll try. One last thing, Gina says, a hint of challenge in her voice. I wouldn't mind another walk, but next time, let's choose daylight hours and a route away from dark alleys. A transformation takes place on his face. All the fatigue, all the seriousness, momentarily dissipates. His eyes truly sparkle. A light appears in them, warm, alive, almost happy. This isn't that quiet strength from the magazine. This is simply the joy of a man who has just received what he was afraid to even hope for. He can't help but smile. A wide, genuine smile. Agreed. A daytime walk, in a lit-up park. I know a place. Okay, she says, and her lips stretch into a smile too. It's an answer to his smile. It's agreement. It's a beginning. They stand there for a moment, simply smiling at each other under the yellow light of the lantern. Everything has been said, fears have been voiced, rules have been established, choices have been made. Then I'll be going, he says, taking a step back. Good night, Gina. Good night, John Ho. He turns and walks toward the car. He doesn't look back. He simply gets in, and the car drives away quietly, disappearing into the night traffic. Gina stands there for another minute. Then she turns and walks into the entrance. She turns on the light in her apartment. Silence. Calm. Everything in its place. But something has changed irrevocably. She goes to the window and looks out at the city at night. Somewhere out there, his car is driving. Somewhere out there, his enemies and his business empire exist. Somewhere out there are dark alleys and people with ill intentions. But here, within her, there's a new feeling. Not carefree happiness, but a firm determination. She hasn't entered into a fairy tale. She has consciously chosen a difficult, risky path with a man whose life is a constant storm. But she is going into it with her eyes open. On her terms, with her strength. She doesn't know what tomorrow will bring. She doesn't know where this one more walk will lead them. But she knows this is the beginning. The real beginning of their story. A story that began not with millions on the map, but with $20 for a coffee in the rain. And now, finally, money is out of the equation. It's just the two of them, with their fears, their rules, and the quiet hope that it will be enough. She turns off the window light and gets ready for bed. For the first time in a long time, her thoughts aren't racing around problems. They're calm. She's made her choice. And this feeling, the feeling of mastery over her destiny, is worth more than any black card. She wakes up the next morning with an unusual clarity in her head. Sunlight falls on the floor of her new, yet familiar apartment. Everything is quiet, but it's not the heavy, oppressive silence of anticipation of trouble that was there before. It's just morning. She's making herself breakfast, plain eggs and toast, coffee in her own coffee machine, which she bought with her own money. She doesn't turn on the TV or scroll through the news on her phone, looking for hints about his name. She simply eats, thinking about yesterday. Remembering the dark alley, her stomach clenches, but next to that memory now stands another, his back in front of her, and his words. As long as you're with me, I'll be between you and this whole world. There was no romance in those words. There was the hard, iron truth of a promise, and she believes that promise. The phone rings around noon. It's an unfamiliar number, but she already knows whose it is. She picks it up. Hello, Gina, this is John Ho. His voice sounds a little different, more relaxed. I'm calling about that afternoon walk, if the offer still stands. In force, she replies, her lips stretching into a smile. When do you think? Today, if you're free. During the day. There's a botanical garden in the center. There are lots of people there. Wide avenues, no alleys. He was clearly prepared. The botanical garden sounds perfect. What time? They agree to meet at the main entrance at 2 o'clock. He says he'll drive, but she can get there herself if she wants. She chooses a taxi. She needs that feeling of independence. She puts on comfortable jeans, sneakers, and a light jacket. No dresses or heels today. She wants to be ready to just go for a walk. She looks in the mirror. No makeup, her hair pulled back into a simple ponytail. She looks like herself, not the decorated version he saw at the restaurant yesterday. And she likes it. She arrives at the garden 5 minutes before 2. He's already there. He's leaning against the black sedan she's driven before. He's wearing dark jeans, a black t-shirt, and a light windbreaker. He's wearing sneakers. She's never seen him dressed like that before. He looks younger, almost like a normal person. But even in these simple clothes, his posture conveys a sense of collectedness, a poise. Next to him, in the driver's seat, sits the same Min. He nods to her as she approaches. John-ho smiles when he sees her. His gaze quickly glides over her face, her simple clothes, and approval appears in his eyes. "You look camping," he says. "And you look like you're going to the gym, not a business meeting," she retorts. He laughs quietly. "That's a compliment. Shall we go?" He says something to Min in Korean, and the car slowly pulls away to park. They enter the garden together. Inside, it's truly bright, spacious, and crowded. Families with children, couples, elderly people with cameras. No one looks at them twice. Here, they're just two among hundreds of others. They walk along the main avenue. At first, they're silent, just breathing in the air, scented with flowers and damp earth. Then he starts talking about plants. It turns out he knows a little about them. He points to a tree with unusual bark and tells them its Latin name. Then he apologizes. "Sorry, it's a habit to categorize and name everything," he says. "That's interesting," Gina says sincerely. "How do you know that?" "As a child, I spent a lot of time with my grandfather in the village. He grew trees, bonsai. It required a lot of knowledge and patience." His voice becomes quieter, thoughtful. "That was a long time ago, and very far from here." He rarely talks about his past. Gina simply nods without prodding. She understands that such moments are a gift. They find a bench by a small carp pond and sit down. The sun is warm, but not scorching. "How are you today?" he asks, turning to her. "After yesterday." "Honestly?" She looks at the water where orange fish swim. "Better than I expected. I thought it through. Your rules. They're fair." "What about your rules?" he asks. "About money. About a clean slate. They're important to me. I can't feel equal with that gift hanging between us. That map." She looks at him. "Do you understand?" He looks at her for a long moment, his face serious. "I'm trying to understand. For me, the world has always been a system of debts and obligations. You gave me $20. I gave you back your security and comfort. In my mind, it's balance. You're asking me to step outside of that system." "Yes," she says simply. "I ask you not to count, not to keep score, to start from scratch, not as a debtor and a benefactor, but as—" She searches for the word. "Like two people," he finishes for her. He sighs. "It's a difficult concept, but I'm learning. So starting from today, we're starting from scratch?" "Starting today," she nods. "Starting with tickets to the botanical garden. Which, by the way, you already bought." She points to the tickets in his hand. He looks at them, then back at her, and smiles again. This new light smile that changes his entire face. "My fault. Next time it's your turn." "Agreed." They start walking again. The conversation flows easily. They laugh at the silly sign at the cafe in the garden. He tells a funny story about his grandfather and a naughty tree. She talks about her first job after college. Here, in the sun, among the greenery, his world, a world of threats and power, seems unreal, a distant dream. But he reminds her of himself, subtly. Gina notices that John-ho never stands with his back to open space. He always controls the view, one way or another. His eyes, even when he laughs, periodically scan the space around him. This isn't paranoia. It's an ingrained habit. It's part of him, and she accepts that too. This is the price of his life, and perhaps now, part of hers too. Before leaving, they enter a greenhouse filled with tropical plants. It's hot and humid. They find themselves almost alone in a side gallery draped with vines. He stops and looks at her. Something focused, important, appears in his eyes. "Gina, I want to tell you something. While we're here, it's simple." "Speak," she says, feeling her heart skip a beat. "You've given me more in these 2 days than most people have in years. A reminder of who I am, and hope for who I can be." He speaks slowly, choosing each word. "I'm not good at making these things pretty. I'm good at making deals and solving problems. But this isn't a deal, and I don't want to solve it. I just want it to be." He doesn't say, "I'm falling in love." He doesn't make grand pronouncements. He speaks of hope, and for a person living in a world of calculation, hope is the rarest and most vulnerable currency. Gina feels a lump in her throat. She puts her hand on his. He just puts it down. His hand is warm and strong. I want that too, she says. They stand like that for a few moments, in the silence of a tropical greenhouse, to the sound of an artificial waterfall somewhere in the distance. This is not passion. This is not drama. This is a silent agreement to walk a difficult, unknown road together, with open eyes. They leave the garden as it begins to get dark. Min is already waiting at the exit. Can I give you a ride? John Ho asks. Yes, says Gina. Please take him. They're silent in the car, but it's a comfortable silence. He holds her hand in his. His fingers intertwine with hers. It's a simple, silent contact that speaks louder than words. He walks her to the door. This time he doesn't come out. See you later, Gina, he says through the open window. See you soon, John Ho. She enters the house and his car drives away. At home, she pours herself a glass of water and goes to the window again. The city lights are on. Her reflection in the glass looks calm. She doesn't think about the alley or his power. She thinks about his smile when she agreed to go for a walk, about how he tried to choose the safest place. Their story isn't a fairy tale about a prince and Cinderella. It's the story of two adults carrying their own burdens. His is heavy and dark. Hers is heavy and gray. They found each other in the rain, at a coffee stand. Then everything became complicated by money, fear, and danger. But today, in the botanical garden, they cast aside all that was superfluous. They abandoned debts, cards, and old roles. They were left with only two people learning to trust, learning to be together, despite all the reasons not to. This isn't the end. This isn't. And they lived happily ever after. This is just the very beginning. The most interesting, the most frightening, and the most real beginning. And Gina, standing by the window, feels not fear, but a quiet, confident readiness to face this new day, whatever it may be, together with him.